Lee the Bumblebee, A Bee's Bit of Wisdom. Story by Don Matheson and pictures by Pamela Barcita. It was a perfect day in Miss Wagner's garden. The garden was dazzling in its new spring colors, under a clear sky of robin's egg blue. The trees wore leaves of fresh emerald green, and the flowers bloomed in every color of the rainbow. Ashley lived next door to Mrs. Wagner and often stopped by to visit. The two had become great friends. Most Saturdays, you could find them sipping raspberry tea on the patio as they watched their furry, feathered, and buzzing friends take delight in the garden. Mrs. Gardner said the garden was their playground. The bunnies tumbled through the clover and played hide-and-seek under the periwinkle. The squirrels leapt from tree to tree, impressing Mrs. Wagner and Ashley with their athletic prowess. The birds sang beautiful cantatas as they cheerfully played in the fountain. Ashley and Mrs. Wagner couldn't help but smile. Ashley especially enjoyed the bumblebees. She found it remarkable how they tirelessly danced from flower to flower, collecting pollen and nectar. Miss Wagner said they were God's most industrious creatures. After tea, Miss Wagner asked Ashley if she would pot some flowers to decorate the patio. "I don't know," Ashley said with a gasp. I don't think I can. I mean, your garden is so beautiful. I could never make something so pretty. And what if I ruin the flowers?" "Oh, honey, that's just silly," said Mrs. Wagner. "Of course you can do it. You've helped me so many times. I'm sure you know just what to do. Now, I have a few chores to take care of inside. I'll be back to check on you in a while." With that, Mrs. Wagner picked up the tea set and went into the house, leaving Ashley with the pots and flowers. Although Ashley usually knew what to do, now that she was alone, she doubted her memory. How much dirt should she use in each pot? How hard was she supposed to pack it down? How deep should she set each flower? Oh, why hadn't she paid more attention? She wanted to cry out of frustration. Just make a mess of it. I'm no good at anything. She heard a sweet little voice say. Turning, she hoped to find Mrs. Wagner coming to relieve her from her impossible task. But Mrs. Wagner was nowhere around. "Who's there?" Ashley cried out. "Calm down," said the voice. "I'm over here." "Where?" said Ashley. "I don't see anyone." "Over here, on the butterfly bush," the voice answered. Ashley moved closer to the flowering shrub and inspected it closely. There she was, a bumblebee. "Good morning," said the bee. Ashley had to sit down, keep from falling over in shock. "A bee? I'm chatting with a bee?" she said in disbelief. "Exactly," said the bee. "But not just any bee. I'm a bumblebee." I don't mean to be rude, Miss Ashley, but I couldn't help overhearing your dilemma. I've seen you in the garden many times. I know Miss Wagner wouldn't ask you to do anything you're not capable of." Still in shock, Ashley somehow managed to remember her manners, and she asked the bee its name. "I'm Ruby Lee the Bumblebee." Ashley looked closely at Ruby Lee. She was a beautiful specimen, dressed in a fuzzy yellow and black, with her little round body seemed huge under her dainty silver wings. Her big bee eyes were bright and friendly, and her cheeks were ruby red, like her name. Her smile was as sweet as honey. Just looking at her made Ashley feel better, and for a time she forgot she was speaking with the bumblebee. Now, Miss Ashley, is there any reason you couldn't pot those flowers for Mrs. Wagner? Ruby Lee asked. Well, said Ashley, I'm not good at anything. What if I break a pot? What if I ruin her beautiful flowers? What if... Enough, said Ruby Lee. Life is full of challenges. It's up to us to take every challenge turn every challenge into an opportunity. We bees learn this very early on. For example, did you know that bumblebees aren't able to fly? Asked Ruby Lee. What do you mean? Asked Ashley with a puzzled look. I know you can fly. I've seen you. Well, of course we do fly, but technically we're not supposed to be able to, explained the bee. Huh? Responded Ashley. Scientifically speaking, our bodies are far too big for our little wings. We shouldn't be able to fly. That's amazing, said Ashley. Yes, it is, agreed Ruby Lee. Although none of us is perfect, God created all these creatures with special gifts, and though at times things seem impossible, we can accomplish amazing things if we trust God and believe in ourselves, explained Ruby Lee. Of course you can pot those flowers for Mrs. Wagner. You're a talented and bright young lady. I'll sit here with you while you work, said Ashley's tiny new friend. After pondering the wise words of Ruby Lee the Bumblebee, Ashley was inspired. She scooped potting soil into each pot, then selected the flowers she thought prettiest. As she set each plant into the top of the soil, she held it gently so the roots wouldn't be damaged. Gradually, she remembered everything Mrs. Wagner had shown her. She and Ruby Lee had a wonderful time chatting while Ashley worked. With each pot, Ashley gained more confidence. In the end, only one pot suffered a minor chip, and the flowers were beautiful. Well done, exclaimed Ruby Lee. Well done. Ashley couldn't help but smile. Her heart was filled with pride. She had done it. At that moment, Mrs. Wagner returned to the garden. Oh, Ashley, what a wonderful job. I knew you could do it. As Mrs. Wagner and Ashley arranged the pot around the patio, Ruby Lee hovered close by. Mrs. Wagner, asked Ashley, did you know that bumblebees aren't able to fly? Well, yes, Ashley, I do know that. My mother told me the story many years ago when I was just about your age. She said that when God made the bumblebee, it shouldn't have been able to fly, but God whispered in its ear, you can do it. The bee trusted himself, and so it flew. Perhaps God made the bumblebee to show us that anything is possible if we trust him and believe in ourselves, said Mrs. Wagner. At that moment, Ruby Lee flew to Ashley's shoulder and whispered in her ear, Believe. And with that, the wise little bee flew off into the garden doing a few loop-de-loops, just because she could. The end.